Imagine spending months developing an SCP game, only to see the first comment say, SCP Containment Breach is low-key better. This isn't a joke, you'll see these comments everywhere. Sooner or later, someone will ask, is SCP Containment Breach better than this game? Since 2012, SCP Containment Breach has set the standards for all SCP games to come. The same year that games like these had a piss filter on them, where our favorite creators would scream at a tall white man. How did that become the standard? To answer that, we need to go back to 2012. When indie horror games were primitive, the internet was chaotic, and nobody was expecting what was about to happen. In Finland 2012 March was a 16-year-old boy making games as a hobby. This boy was named Jonas Vigalis. He used the game engine Blitz 3D, which, if I have to be honest, looks straight out of the 80s. He mainly made games for himself, but eventually he would make his first game, SCP-087-B, which was a direct spin-off of SCP-087. It's a game where you walk down some stairs, and eventually you get jump scared. That's pretty much it. But because this was released back in 2012, people loved these types of horror games. And combine that with the YouTube horror boom back in 2012, where YouTubers like Markiplier and PewDiePie would play Slender Man and other horror games. And once hearing about SCP-087-B, they quickly got on it and decided to make some videos on it. This would lead to millions of people seeing Jonas's game. People loved his game so much that they wanted more. They would ask Jonas to create a bigger game, and filled with the motivation, he decided to do so. In 2012 March, he started the works on SCP Containment Breach, releasing the first version, which was Alpha 0.1, back in April. Now, take a look at the SCP Wiki. One day, you might decide to read a random SCP log. Maybe it's SCP-173, it could be an 096, just any SCP. And eventually, you will find the most profound literature, the most creative writing, the most beautiful story you will ever read. And then you'll read about things like SCP-4032, which is basically a berry that makes you fart uncontrollably. And the art in the SCP Wiki is so uncontrollable. Like, take a look at this. And take a look at this. Any differences? What I'll say is, the SCP community has a lot of randomness. You take a bunch of people, millions of them, each with their own skill sets and ideas, and you basically give them a pen and paper to do whatever they want. Now take that randomness and compress it into a game. You get SCP Containment Breach. Somehow, Containment Breach captured that feeling, and not in a negative way, in a positive way. The janky movements from 2012, the random generating maps, and the weird bugs you'll find eventually. It might sound annoying, even bad for a game, but personally, I like it, and so do many others. Capturing that randomness just shows what the SCP Foundation really is. Now, with all of this information, why is SCP Containment Breach the standard? I have one sentence. It was first, and it got it right. Well, it could be defined as two sentences, but there were only really 3 SCP games back in 2012, 2 of which was basically staircase simulators. SCP Containment Breach brought something new to the SCP community. It brought a real game, a game with lore, a game with greatness. And if you were to ask an SCP fan back in 2012 what an SCP game should be, they wouldn't really be sure. There are so many things in the SCP universe that it's basically impossible to make a game. How should an SCP game be? Should it be an FPS game, maybe even a sandbox game, or should it be a survival game? SCP Containment Breach answered all of those questions. So, when you take a game that was actually good and was first in its field, you get a cult classic. Take a look at SCP Secret Laboratory. It's a great game. Personally, I enjoy it, and I do have some couple of hundred hours on it. But if you were to compare it to SCP Containment Breach, you would notice some things are similar. It's the same concept, just executed differently. It has the same layout in the facility. It goes from light containment zone all the way to surface zone. And both of the games take place during a breach. Now, I'm not saying SCP Secret Laboratory copied directly of SCP Containment Breach, but what I am saying is SCP Secret Laboratory took inspiration from SCP Containment Breach. And I have more proof. Take a look at SCP-5K, Unity, and Blackout. They are all fantastic games with their own perks. But the real question is, would any of these games have looked the same if it weren't for SCP Containment Breach being released? I would even go as far to say 5K, Unity, and Blackout would never have been made if it weren't for Containment Breach's release. But none of these games really ask for that comparison. Yes, SCP Unity shipped with better graphics and SCP-5K had actually funding behind it, but still, if you go into the comment section of every game, there will always be that one person asking if SCP Containment Breach is better. If you want to see what actually makes Containment Breach feel like the foundation, the mechanics, not the legacy, that breakdown is on screen. And if you like this one, maybe consider subscribing.